Hi everyone, we're back for part 2. So just a warning, the videos might end suddenly. That's because this is going to be a 3 or 4 part series as to how I store my buttons, some of my favorites that I collect, and I'm going to also show you a large variety of different types of buttons. And as we always do, we'll talk about button histories, where some of these came from, what they're made out of, storage ideas. As I said, that's a really key part of this. And it's not just storage, as I said in the previous video, it's also about how to display and use them in your everyday life so that you're not just putting them in containers and putting them away. So when people come to your home, they're displayed. When you go into your dressing room or your bedroom or whatever, there are ways for you to have these out and about and you can live with them. So, and also, like we're continuing with my giant art book, junk journal of buttons, which, as I told you, is almost like a button catalog. And what I do with this is I store my buttons in here, but I also am continuously adding to the collection. So if I see something I like, and if it's worthy, in my opinion, it doesn't have to be expensive or the rarest. It could just be my own liking. Then it can end up in this book, and I can carry this book around with me and share them with other people versus carrying tons of cases with me. So the last time we were in here, we stopped on this page where I was showing you some of the figural and also molded, shaped, hard plastic buttons. And these happened, this is a page, or this section is supposed to be dedicated to animals. I have several that I still need to sew into this book. And that was the other thing I talked about. There's only 2 buttons that are glued into this book. All the rest are sewn in because that way you don't damage or ruin the button. Another tip, which I should have shared previously in the other video, that's why it's important to watch all the videos, is always ensure that you have an empty page that will have nothing on it that will go on top of your buttons. The reason why, if I had buttons on this page and buttons on this page, eventually they're rubbing together and that will damage the buttons. So, I mean, your other option would be you could put them back to back. I don't suggest doing that. And then what you could do is and you should use acid-free paper in these books. And then you could take a loose page that's acid-free and stick it in between if you're going to go face to face with your buttons. I strongly, once again, suggest that you not do that because you will eventually, over time, a page will fall out, something will happen, someone in the future might, let's just say, inherit these, and they will not know why you have that sheet of paper stuck in there, and eventually the buttons will become damaged. So some of these buttons are hundreds of years old. Some of them are 100 years old. And if we want to keep them alive and as fresh as possible, I suggest, like I said, if you create something like this, have an empty page that touches your buttons. So enough of that. So here on the back, as you can see, there's some cotton thread here, which is fine. But here I have a few more buttons. I guess I have a thing for ducks, doggies, and kittens. So I definitely have several more. I have some rabbits as well that need to get into this book. And we're probably going to finish this book in this video for sure, and then we'll go on to something else. One of the other like these books are meant to be a reference as well as a display as well as storage. So make your notes, like keep a note section in your book. I have a giant note section in there. We won't go over that right now. And here's another note section. So I have several note sections in here so that when I want to reference something, I can just pull my book out and it's there. But that's why this is, as I thought of it when I made it, something that's made to travel. So I won't go through all the notes or any of the notes. And I also told you guys that I store your cards when you send them to me about buttons inside of this. So this is from a lady named Linda, and I'm going to put her card right in here with a group of others. And here's another card, The Closet Historian. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels. She has moved from Colorado to upstate New York. Good for her. And look at this gorgeous card. So I'm just saying, this can be your button history memory book. And, you know, I won't go through it. Like I said, there's some sewing references. There's more notes in this section right here with the blue. And then when I'm done with it, I actually do store this in my dressing room. It ties up so that I can put it away. And as I told you guys, yes, this book is overloaded. So I suggest using the widest bound heavy duty book that you can find. So you want this right here to be as thick as possible. This is a giant history book from the 1800s that I got from a flea market. So you can find storage anywhere you want. So let's talk about some other new, what I consider to be some of my newer alternatives to storage. Let me just move you guys around and I'll increase the size a little bit. So one of the things that people are into, and I'm not really, yes, my nails are kind of painted, but you can see they're chipped. I'm a gardener. I do mixed media art, so I don't worry as much as, you know, people compliment me on my dress. If they saw my nails, they probably would be appalled. But there are people who are into the whole nail thing. Well, guess what? That has given us a storage solution for buttons as well. I have several of these, and mostly I store my diminutive buttons in them. Because, first of all, you could put several into each cell. And secondly, you can easily see what you have. The one thing I will say that is a negative about this is when the back is like that. Because you can see the shanks, but you can't just like this side is clear. Like you can clearly see everything. And I do wish that that was the same on both sides. And no, there's no coating on here. I peeled that coating off a while ago. But in here, there's this is another really good way, in my opinion, to take these on the run with you. So if you go to a button show or something like that, you're able to simply pick these up and go with them versus taking boxes and cases and things like that. So in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this holds 36. It has 36 cells. And obviously, as you can see in some of them, I have a multitude of diminutive buttons. Especially here, I went a little bit wild. But this one, I actually have more of these. I could fill that up more. But these will also easily fit nickel or American nickel size buttons in them. This one is a little bit smaller than an American nickel. So this gives you, in my opinion, lots of options. It's up to you, obviously, how you want to use them. And they're affordable. The way these work is they usually come with a protective film over them. So you just peel that off. Then, obviously, fill them the way that you want. Just make sure that your buttons are turned up the right way. Even those with shanks, you know, you just want to make sure, like some of these tiny ones are going to move around unless you fill the cell. So that's just, you know, that's just the way it is. So this is how it looks flat. And it does, in my opinion, it looks better flat. than it does on a riser or on an easel type thing like this phone holder, which is what this is. But the other thing is these usually, and I can even have this hold, these hold by a magnet. So two magnets meet and hold the front panel on. So if you're a committed person, as I sometimes am, then what you can do is I have a jeweler's glue that dries completely clear. You could even use E6000, but I suggest if you use E6000 that you only put like a dab here, 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 and here, because you will see the smear if you don't, if you put too much. And then you can close this up and just, it'll stay like that forever until you pry it open with a tool, which, yes, damages and destroys the case. But if you don't want to do that, because this is magnetic, you can open it as easily as that, have access, put your panel back on, and you're all set. Now, if I drop this on the floor, this is just my opinion because I've never done it. I think all of these buttons might go flying everywhere if it's on one of our hardwood or tiled floors or outside, but that I am not sure of. So I don't know if these magnets are like that strong. So just be careful and aware of that. But I love storing them like this because there's something that you could put a wall hanger on the back of this easily, like E6000 that on there, and you can hang these on your wall and have a, succession of them. Or once again, as I did with this phone holder, you can lean it. There are phone holders or I do have little easel holders. You could also use those, and I use those usually to display like a book or a picture or something like that. Sorry about that. And this is another newer, I guess I'll say, option for displaying anything. They now have these floating, usually they're called jewelry cases. In my opinion, they're just floating display cases. And they're considered floating because this is some sort of latex on both sides. And it allows you to put whatever you want inside of them. And it says open, so it shows you where you open it. And it has a little click. You click it open, and all of your things, whatever it is you're storing, can be stored in here. As you know, as a button collector, I was super happy. I experimented, and then I was like, wait a minute, instead of just putting buttons in there, I can display my buttons with other things. And you could hear that click. I love that because you know for sure that you could make, like, this will fall on the floor and nothing is going anywhere, unlike the nail cells. So here, this one, and they don't all come with a little display, I don't know what to call this, base. I have some, like the purple ones did not come with a base. So the blue ones, and I think I have some yellow, and it's sort of like a yellow mustard orangey color. I'll show you that in a second. Those didn't come with a base either. So that's one of the things I would say as a tip is if you do get these, get them with the bases. And usually the ones with the base, without the base, the difference is you'll get more of them if there are no bases. It's almost like they're replacing the base by giving you a couple more of these. I prefer to have both pieces. So you can see your buttons can float in there. So we have some steel back with a twinkler button here. I actually put a little gold brooch in there. Obviously, you see this cameo, a bow. This piano is a sterling silver piano. And here's a couple diminutive Czechoslovakian buttons are in there. And in this is one, and let me show you. So this is like the yellow one. And this one, they're all, I believe, made by the same company, you guys. So open, And like I said, these did not come with a base. So just make sure you check that out. I wish I had paid attention to that. So here is a lesson. Because some buttons are made from organic matter, you need to be careful of your storage. I am guilty in this case of improperly storing or putting this together. So move this out of the way and we'll use this as an example. So I don't know if you guys can tell the difference, but you can see that this has a cloudiness, the purple lilac one, and this one is clear. And that is because in here I have an organic, well, I have two organic items. One is a Big Beauty Tagawa nut, which is also vegetable ivory button. So this button is the culprit. When you have, especially, I would say wood buttons, you might be okay. You have to, I mean, by the time we have access to them as consumers, they should be bone dry. But Tagawa nut, being the material that it is, which is a vegetable ivory, it is always in need of air. So it needs to breathe. So when you put these in an, like, you could now know how airtight these are. When you put them in an airtight container, what happens is this cloudiness occurs. So technically this container is no longer any good. Even if I clean this off, I wouldn't trust it. And you can even see like the integrity of it is breaking down because latex is, you know, it's latex. So just be aware of what type of buttons you put in super airtight containers. So that was a lesson learned by me. And that could have ruined this antique vintage brooch. And these are some African trade beads. And here is a diminutive, and this is definitely a diminutive antique button, which is, I don't know if it's going to come in clearly. Let's see if I stop moving. Which is enameled. So I definitely, and then I have this, which has some abalone in it, sterling silver as well. But you just need to be aware of that. So this right now, going to be recycled. I just tossed it across the room. Another idea for storage, and this is one that I've been experimenting more with, and this one is kind of weird. And the reason it's weird is guys will probably, hopefully, take to this one, but girls, we have fun too. So this one involves baseball card holders or card holders. So they're now making these with the I loosely want to call these almost industrial strength magnets. They're very similar to that. These are a little bit bigger, of course, because it's a whole case. And the way these work, in this one I did not glue shut. So as you can see, I'm displaying in this one a variety of mother of pearl, mollusk, mop buttons. And what I like about this display is the fact that some of them have different shapes, they have different colors. I talked about this type of button in the past, as I've talked about various styles of buttons in the past. With the way that they get the color in here is either it's naturally occurring, or as in the case of, you can barely see it because it's hiding, this blue button right here was dyed. This orangey button right here was also dyed. The rest of them are their natural colors. So in this display, my focus was just, and I still have room to grow, as you can see in this one, is I just wanted a collage of mop or mother of pearl mollusk buttons. And luckily, the good thing about these is the fact that they are thick enough that you can put some of your thicker buttons in it. And the way they work is this opens, it comes out. There's 2 tabs on the left and right, and there's a slot here and a slot there, and you simply slide it right back in and you can close it. Now, this is another commitment situation. Would you want to glue this shut for prosperity, or do you want to leave it so that you always have access to the contents? Once again, that's a decision that is up to you. Another thing that and I do think that with these, you have to be more careful than with this version, because there's only one magnet. And if these buttons are not totally flat inside, this case is not completely closed. As a matter of fact, this little tiny diminutive button right here is a reason why this case did not close. So that tells me that if I drop this, or someone picked it up and it wasn't fully closed, I would have buttons all over the place. So I plan on using these by gluing them. So whatever goes in here, as far as my ownership of those items, they will be in there forever. But once again, this is something where you could put a little, you could even use like a piece of ribbon to go over the top of this and hang these as almost like ornaments on a tree, or hang them obviously on a wall or wherever you want to hang them. You can also, once again, use some sort of easel type contraption to, display these, or they could lay out flat on a table. I think that if you're doing button shows, and especially dealers and such, you might want to put some of these together for sale so that someone has almost like an instant collection. When I obtain these, I have a relationship with a particular company, and they send me things to test. That's why I selected these, because I thought they would be good for my button collection. They usually come in a case like this with 20, 30 of them, 50 of them. You select the denomination, but they always come in at least 20s. So you're not going to be able to just buy 4 or 5 of these separately unless like myself or someone else was selling them as separate units. But as you can see, there are plenty in here to use for your button collecting pleasures. So for now, we are going to say goodbye. And I am going to start the next video in this series. I hope that you guys have questions and you put them down below, because I would like to know your opinions and how do you store and display your buttons. I hope that you also display them, because otherwise, in my opinion, I don't know. I collect certain things. Most of the things I collect are small. And I will say, when you collect smaller things, I do think that it's more of a challenge to display them. But there are like hacks, I guess we'll call these. There's hacks out there. And I think it's a good idea that we share them with each other so that, we all get a new perspective. There may be something that we didn't think about. So I really would appreciate your feedback as to some of the things that you do. And I hope you stay tuned for the next video in this series. And we are going to go over one of the most outrageous ways that I display my buttons. There's a couple more methods coming up, but this one is pretty robust, I will say. And thank you for tuning in to the Velvet Lounge Life, which is named after our little doggy, Velvet. And please subscribe to the channel, as I said before. I am here to try to preserve this history, to share the knowledge. And yes, we do more than buttons here, but as you know, buttons are a pretty big thing. And I will be going through, as I promised you guys previously, other collections that I have that people have been interested in as well. So thank you and stay tuned.